Hey Concord, how's it going? All right. Um, First of all, you might want to pause this video and go get a pencil and some paper because you're going to be taking some notes. So that was me pausing it for you. All right. Don't just listen, or if you can carry this around to get your pencil or paper, that's fine. But you don't just like have me playing in the background. You miss out on the notes while you're going to get the pencil and the paper. You're at home doing this on your own, so you can hit pause. I'm assuming you're back now, so let's just work off that assumption. We're going to take some notes today on explorers and why explorers explored the world, the age of discovery, a bunch of that stuff. So now that you have your pencil and paper, let me ask you a question. All right, that's not the question. I'm not asking you why. I'm asking you this. Have you ever been the first of your friends to discover something? A band, a type of food, a restaurant, some show on Netflix, a video game? I remember this did happen to me, by the way. Several times I discovered a band, discovered, and then like everybody started listening to them, and I'm like, ugh, like I was the first one. Of course, I wasn't the first one. They already had fans. Like I didn't start the band, so. Um, but yeah, like, has that happened to you? Have you discovered a new food that you were so excited to tell all your friends about, or did you discover a new restaurant or a new you know, food on the menu of that restaurant, and then you're excited to tell your friends about it? I'm only asking this because oftentimes when we talk about the age of discovery, people are like, what do you mean by discover? Like, Columbus didn't discover America, there were already people living there, or whatever. And it's true, Columbus didn't discover America, and other people might say he didn't even discover America in the sense that he didn't even land on America, which is also true. But what we mean by discover here isn't that they're the first person to discover something, but that they're the first person within their group, within their cultural group or selective group to know about something or to discover it, like you would discover a band that already existed before you discovered them, unless maybe you're Simon Cowell. Right. So why did they explore? Why did the people that were exploring and doing these discoveries, why did they do it? So we've got, we're talking about Europeans here, although later on we'll talk about more than that. Europeans in the second half of the second millennium, AD or CE. And remember, AD, in your notes, what does AD stand for? Anybody remember? AD? Anno Domini. All right. And CE stands for Common Era. It's the same time period. So, eating KFC. Back in the day, Mr. Cowell's class came up with this acronym, which we taught. It's really good, I think. We both added to it. It's his acronym. I think the N is mine, and I make the N bigger, not because it's mine, but because a lot of the things that are under here, under the Eaton KFC banner, fit under the N, right? So N stands for natural resources. Write this whole thing down. You're writing down Eaton KFC, and you're writing that N equals natural resources, and that encompasses a lot. So can you think of any natural resources? So hit pause, and I want you to write down at least 5 natural resources. I don't want to pause my talking because I'm assuming that you've hit pause and you're writing down these natural resources because this is what you're getting graded on, right? I feel like, you ever watch Dora the Explorer? And you know how she pauses? She's like, "Can you name 5 natural resources?" And then she'll wait for like 5 seconds and she's like, "You did it!" So I would do that more often, but I'm pretty sure that you would hate it. So you're welcome. I'm not going to. So a natural resource, anything not man-made, it's useful, it's found in nature. Gold, silver, lumber, water, coal. You get the idea. So natural resources is the N here. But if we're going through eating KFC, E stands for expand empire, right? And here, like this is the British Empire, all the land that the British said that they owned. Look at all this, all across the world, the British Empire. A, so you should be putting all of this down in your notes. A stands for animal furs. So this was a big deal during the age of exploration, animal furs. T stands for treasure, and we already had gold up there, but gold, right? Gold, silver, precious stones, lapis, a lot of natural resources. When I first started teaching this Minecraft, had just become big, and like before, students didn't know any of it, and then Minecraft came out, and then students were naming all these natural resources. I'm like, where'd you learn all this stuff? And they're like, Minecraft. The K in eating KFC stands for knowledge. Knowledge. And especially knowledge about the world and where land is and how they could sail the world better. But knowledge was important. And then the F stands for find. And I don't like this one because they were finding a lot of things, right? They were finding animal furs, they were finding treasure, they were gaining or finding knowledge. But the F here stands for find. Finding a sea route to the spices of Asia, spices especially, but spices, silk, and salt of Asia, and other natural resources that Asia had to offer. So here are a bunch of sea routes. Everybody's like, especially Portugal and Spain early on are looking for sea routes to Asia, and then other explorers came along, um, and the British, the French, and they're going off of that stuff, off of those earlier sea routes that were discovered and found, and yeah, they wanted the fastest path that they could take, the more money they could make. C stands for Christianity, spread it, right? They wanted to spread Christianity, spread their religion. Um, Here's Bartolome de las Casas. Um, I'm sure you've heard about him. I remember when I taught 8th grade, we studied him. So if not, you should, right? So here, let's talk about Columbus for a minute. Before Columbus, this is the Silk Road, and really this is a bad approximation of the Silk Road. The Silk Road was really a series of a whole bunch of roads that went from Europe to Asia, trading for various natural resources and goods. And then after, like the Silk Road got cut off by the Turks here, it gets complicated, and it still existed even during that time, but it was dangerous. And if you could find a quicker way to get to Asia, a sea route, that would be good, right? Because the quicker the path, the quicker you have a way to get to your riches. So Columbus, what he did, he's like, why don't we just sail west? And then he's like, we all know the world's round. He didn't discover that. And then we'll sail west, and we'll end up here in India, in the Indies, in Asia. So he didn't believe all those scholars that the world was as big as it is. So he thought if he sails west, he's going to get to the riches of Asia. He's trying to talk people into agreeing with him. He was Italian. He's from Genoa. He talked to the Portuguese. They wouldn't do it. He talked to the Spanish. The Spanish are like, all right, we'll do this. We'll gamble a little bit here. And so he did. And he thought he's going to sail here and just go around the world and come right here. But he did not realize, I'm sure you've heard this as well. He sailed. We're going to be in India any day now. We're going to be in India any day, right? We're going to be in India soon. Here we go. Almost to India, everybody, right? And he ended in what we still today call the West Indies. And he made several trips. He never set foot in America. But he landed in what we call today the West Indies. He said People in India have darker skin than we do. Check. They speak a language we've never heard. Check. They have spices that we can only dream of. Check. He's like, he thought, of course, that he was in the Indies or in India. Um, but of course, obviously today we look at that and we're like, yeah, a little mistake there. That's what happened with Columbus. But what Columbus did that other explorers, and he wasn't the first person to discover America. He didn't even set foot on the United States, of course. But what he did that other discoverers, whether it's Native Americans or whether it's Leif Erikson, whether it's the Chinese or anybody else, he discovered them and made this discovery widely known so that the people of what we call North and South America, or what you might call the Americas, um, didn't know about Europeans to the extent that they would find out about them soon. And Europeans and people in Africa and people in Asia didn't know about these continents in a way that opened up trade between the two. That was Columbus, right? Columbus started this exchange of goods and ideas and plant life and animals and disease between these two places that forever, irrevocably changed the world. So, that led to a lot of things, including colonization of land, where you have some place like England, United Kingdom saying, this land is mine, and 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 this land is mine. And you have Africa was colonized, where all these different European powers claimed land in Africa for themselves. And we'll talk a little bit about some of these places. Right, you have France that colonized all this. In blue was France, and I put this on here so you can see about how big France was compared to all the land in Africa that they claimed as theirs. You can see how big the United Kingdom was compared to all the land that they said was theirs. Here, this is Congo, and here's about the size of Belgium, and you can see all the land that wee little Belgium claimed, right? Claimed as their land, and not just claimed, but brutally treated the people of the Congo. So we'll talk about King Leopold a bit too this week. So if somebody asks you about negative effects of colonization, in a nutshell, I don't want to just spoon feed you answers, but here you go. I would write these down. Right, a negative effect of colonization is that it forced people who didn't get along to live in the same country. Right, so just like here's Europe, right, and throughout the bulk of history, England and France did not get along. Like ever since 1066 with the Battle of Hastings, right? England and France didn't get along really until World War One and World War Two. They were they had some conflicts, let's say, right? And all throughout here, different time periods, different groups, indigenous groups of Europe, um, didn't always get along with the other groups of Europe. Spain and England and Spain and France and Portugal and Spain and Italy and were sometimes fighting. And if somebody would group all these people together into one country, it might not work out. And so there are lots of different indigenous peoples, lots of different groups that make up their own people groups all throughout Africa. And then these colonial powers came in and said, you're now all part of France, or you're now all part of the United Kingdom, you're not now all part of Belgium. And that led to conflict then that was kept in check by the European powers, but it also led to conflicts much later on down the road. We'll get to that next semester in Unit 2 with genocide. Maybe we'll talk about the Rwandan genocide that was really an outgrowth of what happened with Belgium here. So that's one, right? A negative effect of colonization, and I would write these down in your notes, right? A negative effect of colonization is that it took the natural resources of Africa away from the people of Africa, right? That they had all that gold and they had all that silver and they had those diamonds and all of that. Instead of staying here and making Congo rich, it went to Belgium and made Belgium rich. So There were many, many more consequences of colonization, but you can come up with, you could probably come up with several on your own. Um, Last thing I just want to leave you with is that this isn't a this isn't a new thing. This wasn't new after Columbus, right? It wasn't like Columbus was the one who discovered colonization or discovered invading other countries, right? Here's the Mongolian Empire, the Mongols, right? How much land they conquered and claimed as their own, and vestiges of that and effects of that are still being seen in the world today. About from back in 1279, you can go back even farther, right? Here's the Roman Empire, and the influence of the Roman Empire is still felt on the world today, even though this was 117 AD Anno Domini, right? That this isn't new stuff. You could go to the Aztec Empire. The Aztecs would take land that wasn't their land, and the Mayans would take land that wasn't their land, and the Greeks. And so I would want to make this uh, quick, quick aside that it didn't start with Columbus, right? Columbus wasn't the one who was like, hey, why don't we take land that wasn't our land and make it our land? This was going on um, throughout history. Throughout history, I think it was Hunter S. Thompson who said every piece of land in the world has been fought over at least 10 times. Fought and people have fought and killed for that piece of land 10 times at least. That quote might not be accurate. Take it with a grain of salt. Those those are the notes. I hope you wrote them down, and I will see you all when I see you all. If you have any questions, feel free to email me anytime, of course, and see you soon.